Hey, it's Claire and James here. Before we get stuck into this week's episode, we just want to let you know that we're about to launch a first of its kind tool that's going to help you identify where you might be holding yourself back from living your fullest potential at midlife.
We're naming it the Midlife Reset Audit, and what's incredibly exciting is that it'll offer you your personalised strategies that give you the most impactful wins, so you can quickly take back control of your body, mind and life.
Now we're just putting the finishing touches to it, making it the best it can possibly be. So if you'd like to be the first to take the audit, pop your name on the waiting list. Just go to themidlifementors.com/audit. This week's episode is for anyone interested in finding out a little more about managing their relationship with alcohol. Because according to research, misuse is the biggest risk factor for death, ill health and disability among 15 to 49-year-olds in the UK.
In this episode, we're speaking to the wonderful Dave Wilson, who is a certified grey area drinking coach, public speaker and #1 best-selling author with his book, One for the Road. He's also known as Sober Dave on Instagram with 118k followers, is an ambassador for Alcohol Change UK and dedicates his time to raising awareness of the impact and harm of excessive use of alcohol for both individuals and family members.
We hope you find this episode insightful, and if you are struggling, please reach out for help so we can put you in touch with the right people.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with me, James.
And me, Claire. So I think this is going to go out in a couple of weeks. So what have we been up to recently? What have we been doing? I feel like we've been stuck behind laptops quite a lot, which is never good.
Talking about the weather, Claire, I think. We do on every podcast at the moment because it's just a storm after storm after storm here in the UK.
Wet, windy and wild is how you pronounce, explain
I've
it.
already used that one, haven't I? Wet and wild. But I think... what have we been doing? Well, we've been getting our new scorecard ready. So that's the Midlife Reset Audit. That by the time this comes out, it'll be ready to go. You can go on and complete it and find out where your blocks are, what's holding you back in midlife, what are the barriers that are stopping you, and get actionable tips. So we're really excited about that.
Really excited. And then we've got our retreat happening next month in Six Senses in Ibiza, whoop, whoop, which we're really excited about. So if you want to come and join us and get a complete midlife reset for your body, mind and soul, do give us a shout. All that details will be in the show notes. But without further ado, because we're both very excited, but I'm super excited because I have watched this gentleman's journey for about the last 3 years, and he has kindly agreed to come on the Midlife Mentors podcast today. So we are speaking today with Dave Wilson, who is a certified grey area drinking coach, public speaker, and #1 best-selling author with his book, One for the Road. Also known as Sober Dave on Instagram, where I know him from, with 118,000 followers now, and he's an ambassador for Alcohol Change UK. Dave is dedicated to raising awareness of the impact and harm of excessive use of alcohol for both individuals and family members. Dave, massive welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, what an entrance that was. I feel quite humble with that. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh,
It's a pleasure to have you on here.
It really is. It really is. So I suppose let's dive straight on in, really, and ask Dave about his journey.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how your journey, how did you get started as Sober Dave? What was the catalyst for it?
Well, for anyone who knows who I am, they know that I was drinking for 40 years. I started when I was 14 years old. Unfortunately, my mum left the family home when I was 14. We recently moved and I had to start secondary school in the second year, which was horrendous for me because I was a really shy kid. I wasn't streetwise and it was quite a rough area. And I remember walking in this classroom and there's these big old brute lads there staring at me. And I was terrified. And it was about, I think, 4 months after that, that my mum just up and went. She left me a letter on the kitchen table. So I came down to that, and she said I'd be in touch, and I didn't hear for over a year. And of course, back in those days, we didn't have mobiles or anything like that. So it really, really knocked my whole world into oblivion then. And it was shortly after that, my dad then met someone, and she used to come around nearly every night. And I used to end up sitting in my little 9x6 box room, staring at the walls really a lot of the time, listening to them laughing downstairs. And then one of these big Herbert lots knocked on my door, and I'll answer it when you coming up the shops. And I had nothing else to do, even though that weren't the kind of friendship I was looking at having, because I wasn't streetwise. Anyway, went up the shops, and they were asking the adults to buy beer out the offie with some change I'd either pinched or found down the side of the sofa. And of course, I had my first can. Of course, it tastes horrible, doesn't it? I don't know if anyone actually likes alcohol, but anyway, after that, I started to make them laugh. And they said things like, "Oh, you're actually all right, Dave. You're funny. You're one of us." And because I felt so isolated and rejected and alone when my mum left and my dad met this new person, I felt part of something, and I fitted in. And so this became a regular occasion, going to the shops, the circle. There was a dodgy old gangsters pub across the road called the St. Helier Arms. And of course, in those days, you didn't need ID either. So you could go in these pubs. And I was quite a big lad, really. I looked older than what I was. So by the time I was 15, we were going to all the pubs, getting drunk on 3 or 4 pints, waking up, going to school with hangovers. And it was just part of the course, And I think I led quite a normal sort of upbringing of, clubbing at the weekend, and then getting my head down in the week and cracking on with things, working that. But it was when I was in my late 20s and that it changed, because I started going to a local pub. And, there was all the workmen in there. I was in the carpet trade. I was nicknamed, 2 names, Dave the Carpet and then Glugs, because I'll drink really quickly. I just would guzzle it down. Glugsy, yeah. And there was people in there like Colin the Carburetor, John the Plasterer. We all had nicknames, and it was a public bar. But then I started going in on my own, sitting on my own. And then one day someone said to me, "Bloody hell, Dave, you're a right alky now, aren't you?" And I'm really sensitive, right? And it really hit me like, God, is it that noticeable? I just thought I was having a few beers, but obviously to other people, it looks like I've got a problem. So I started going over the off license over the road. And back then they had all these offers on, right? And it was diamond white. So there were people here that oh God, it was 8.2%. And it was like buy 4, get 4 free. And so I would go and have a couple of beers in the pub, go home and crack open a diamond white. Before I knew it, I was drinking 8 cans and passing out, and then waking up in the morning with the worst hangover. But how it made me feel was like I could get away with it because I wasn't being judged. And then I got to move when I was 40. So this went through my 30s, catalogue of disastrous relationships and bad decisions, choices, but it was kind of that decade in my life that drinking was fun. I had millions of stories, and it didn't appear to me as a problem in my life every day. It was like, it's one of those chat with the lads about the night out Friday, meet midday Saturday, then Sunday I'll spend all day at home getting drunk. But when I was 40, I moved into a little cottage in this tiny village, which was away from the pub. I hated the local pub. It was a carvery. So I started drinking more at home, right? But this is where then you could buy 3 bottles of wine for 10 quid. I stopped drinking beer because I felt really bloated. But with the wine, like the 1.5 bottles turned into 2, and then that turned into 2.5 bottles, that turned into 3. I started packing on the pounds, really overweight, did that thing. in a Google search, what alcohol has the least amount of calories? Vodka. Oh, I hate vodka. I hate spirits, but I'll give it a go. Half a bottle, turn into a bottle, turn into a litre. So by the time I was 42, 43, I was actually drinking virtually a litre of vodka a night. And at weekends more, because I would finish work on a Friday early on purpose, work for myself, straight to Tesco's, big trolley, chuck a load of chickens in there, because I wasn't one of these people that never ate. I would make sure I eat. So that 3 chickens, eat them like a caveman. And then,
chickens.
yeah, vodka, cases of Stella and wine, because I'd have a little sort of party for one on my own. And then I become a recluse. I had neighbours next door that were party people, and they used to say to me, Dave, we're having a party Saturday night. You must come. There's loads of people going. And I go, oh, I'm out actually, and sit in the dark in my house with my phone torch behind a sofa, pouring my vodka. Because if I'd have gone next door, of course I could have had a good time and had a few drinks, but not the amount I wanted to numb out to the extent I wanted to numb out to. So it put me off. And this went all the way through my 40s. And then I got on the TV show, 60-Minute Makeover.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got asked on there because I did a little spell on DIY SOS for a couple of shows and that. Of course, I'm going to put it in my website. I went for an interview and passed the interview. And the first thing I thought was, I'm actually a recluse. Like, how can I go on this show with my drinking problem and manage it all? And I went there the first night. We all went out, and I mean, of course, everyone loved a drink and that, so it was all right. And this just went on. Like, honestly, the amount of times I turned up on the show and they'd say, all right, we're going to film you talking to the presenter now. And I was literally hanging out of my arse that morning, like literally wrecked, thinking, oh my God, I won't even be able to watch this episode because I'm going to look absolutely terrible. But, you know, it got to a stage that my health was so bad. I stopped doing the show. The budget was blown. So that ended. I've actually heard it's coming back, but I won't be going on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it got to a stage in my life, and some people have heard this story about where I ended up in Eastbourne on an absolute bender, like being in a pub at 9 a.m. in the Witherspoons in Eastbourne, drinking all day, met some fake friends. Thought it'd be a really good idea not to try and find accommodation, but to sit on the beach and look at the stars and look at the sea coming in. And it nearly killed me. Like, seriously nearly killed me. I mean, drinking all day in the pub and drinking vodka on the beach is not something I recommend. And I did it for 4 days in a row. But I'd recently been to the doctors as well because I was on antidepressants. I was on tablets for my cholesterol. I was on tablets for my blood pressure. I was on acid reflux tablets. I was chronically overweight. And I've been to the doctors just before Eastbourne and said, these antidepressants aren't working. I still feel depressed. Well, hello. He did actually say to me as well, oh, I didn't ask you last time, but, you know, how much are you drinking? He didn't ask me the last time. He didn't ask me this time. So he doubled the dose of my antidepressants.
I didn't ask you about your lifestyle. No.
Absolutely not, right? And I was in there for about 90 seconds. He said, well, this increased your dose. And there was part of me as well, right, that I didn't want him to ask me because I'd have to play some music then. So the 90 seconds suited me as well because it was almost like, get out of here, take a high dose and hopefully that fixed me. Not actually, it's the booze that's making me depressed and my lifestyle. And I think I went psychotic and I don't know how I survived that. Came back, went back to the doctors and I was in there nearly an hour, right? And you know that we have these limited like 8-minute appointment, whatever it is, right? And now you don't even get one.
No.
I think they realised they'd messed up and they said, you've got to stop drinking. And what did I do? Carried on drinking, right?
So what age were you here, Dave? Do you mind sharing?
I was 50. 54
54.
when I stopped drinking, right, which was 2019. So I would have been 53 when I was doing the Eastbourne thing. So I've been drinking virtually 40 years.
Wow.
And I would say the first 10 was like we all do growing up, teenagers, 20s, like out. But most people, they rein it in when they get married and have kids, and it changes, right? For me, I just ramped it up.
Yeah.
And it got to a stage that I felt so ill, and I might have even been near to death, really, because my body wasn't working, my nervous system wasn't working, my mental health was at rock bottom, my physical health was non-existent. I couldn't even put my socks on without being out of breath. You know, I would come up and it was January the 7th, 2019, another hangover, another sitting in traffic in the van, and a text came through and I saw it come up, and it was a mate of mine, and he said, Dave, how do you fancy joining me for 3 months to stop drinking? And I looked at it and I was like, are you serious, mate? Like, have you any idea how this is for me? Like, obviously not. But this guy Piers is a really lovely spiritual bloke, like lovely, lovely man, right? But what it done, it planted a seed in my head. So throughout the day, I was working away and I started to visualize what life might look like without drinking, right? And I thought, you know, how could my health be? How could my motivation be? My job? I mean, every day turning up, knocking on people's doors at 8 a.m, like looking like bloody zombie. So it was that day that I thought, do you know what? I started to get the taste of what life could look like after years of living my lowest quality of life, right? And I pulled over in a little lay-by in Wimbledon, and I texted him back, are you in? Now, this guy's never in. He's always doing something like with the community and whatnot. And his reply was, come and see me. So I drove straight to his house, and his wife let me in, and he was just standing there like a messiah in the middle of the lounge. He's a big bloke, right? And I looked at him and he looked at me, and I went, let's do it. And that was it. That was the moment that I stopped drinking.
Wow.
Just like that. Absolute serendipity. And I said, let's do it. And I committed to the 3 months that he had asked me to do. And he had a couple of turbo trainers in his garage. I used to live in Wandsworth Common, so it's quite we lived in what we called a posh Brookside. And he used to go every morning in his garage and train for an hour on a bike, because he was doing this London to Paris thing. And I said, I'll do it with you. And he looked at me and went, well, let's talk about that maybe in a few weeks. Because I think I was just
I think you're out of breath doing
yeah. Anyway, I kept on training. I kept on staying motivated, and I kept on being accountable to him. And I kept on believing in myself to commit to this 3 months. But after 6 weeks, I was walking my little chihuahua, right? No, it sounds great, but, you know, I'm a big bloke with a little chihuahua on Wandsworth Common. But hey, but I saw my local in the corner, and I looked at it and I thought, I'm halfway through the 3 months. What am I going to be doing in 6 weeks' time when it's ended? Am I going to be going back in there, having 6 pints of Peroni, going into Londis and buying 3 bottles of wine, drinking one on the way home, dumping the bottle in the bin? Am I going to be doing this? And that was the next pivotal moment for me that I decided, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I was done then.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my social media up and started talking about it as a bloke in his 50s with a bloody Croydon market barrow boy voice going, well, you know, and it seemed to work, because before no time, people started to DM me and go, oh my God, mate, I can really relate to your story. And how have you done it? Because like I'm really in trouble here. And that's how it started, you know, just by being authentic and real on Instagram rather than, hey, look at my skin and I've just run a 10K in my pajamas and it's only 5 a.m. You know, it's about being real. And I think people appreciated that. And that was over 5 years ago now. And, you know, it's, well, the best thing. I've saved myself, basically, absolutely saved myself, because I don't think I'll be here now.
And I think also obviously what happened in 2020 when we all got locked down, I think you doing what you were doing at that particular moment as well, and being real and like that word vulnerable and approachable for people that were really struggling, because we heard lots of stories, we saw lots of people, we know obviously in all the press that people either kind of quit alcohol around that time or they ramped it right up. It was kind of it's one or the other.
And we're still having a backlash of that. I mean, people's mental health, and no one talks about lockdown so much nowadays. But honestly, with the work I do as well, people, I know there's PTSD from it. I mean, people lost their jobs, they lost their houses, divorce rates, but also the fact that it was lovely weather. There was nothing to do, and it was like a huge summer holiday. And people, there was an app out then called House Party, and people posting pictures, sunbathing, chinking their glasses at 1 p.m. Wind it on a year. At people sitting on Zooms, because no one knew about Zooms before that, right? Sitting on Zooms with a mug of tea, blowing it, but it's actually got wine in it. Because their brain was saying to them, it's 1 o'clock. It's about time you have a drink now, because we become accustomed to the drinking at that time of day. And I still get people coming to me now for help, and they're saying, you know, since lockdown, my mental health has completely declined. My drinking has gone up from 1 bottle to 2 bottles. You know, and that 1 to 2, it's important to say, is people, it's bad enough having a bottle a night, right? But the amount of times people said, oh, I might just have one at the second one. And that fall off the cliff is huge, because in no time they're drinking 2.
Of course. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I got really interested in what you said there about post-traumatic stress from COVID, because I don't have any research basis on, but what I say anecdotally, talking to people, I feel like we had the whole lockdown and we kind of came to the other side and everyone was like, oh, it's over, it's great. I'd say it's only in the last like 6 months or so people have really started going, actually, you know what, that really affected me in so many ways, on so many levels, and it's starting to manifest now. I think the mental health issues from it were almost masked at the time, but people are starting to express them more now. Do you see that or think that?
Yeah, 100% right. People stored a lot of trauma in their bodies back then, right? And that we can have talking therapy, we can do all these different things, right? But we store that trauma, and it's coming out now. It's showing now in everyday life, you know. And you know, I always talk highly about therapy. My therapist was amazing. But as you know, I'm training to be a trauma-informed coach, right? And what I'm learning about the nervous system is absolutely incredible.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And I'm learning now how to regulate my nervous system back from years ago, from when my mum left, from, you know, it's also learned behavior of how we react to things, you know. And lockdown for me, I was so grateful that I wasn't drinking, because my biggest thing would have been how to get the drink in the house, because I used to hide it, I used to sneak it in. And we all know back then you had to go in bloody couples or singular files to go shopping and queue up for 2 hours. And I would be
You'd have been noticed, you know,
putting 6 litres of vodka on the counter and a lettuce. You know, it's going to look a bit obvious, isn't it? So I was so grateful, but it really allowed me the headspace to help other people, because I created a thing with some others called the Sober Sessions, which was every Saturday afternoon that people would check in with.
When did you start those? Was that in lockdown?
Yeah. We there was a few of us that did this group, and you know, the power of groups are incredible. You know, to have the accountability, but the connection's so important in the world, you know. And talking to like-minded people who are going through the same things as you without feeling shame and judgment is so important, you know. And that's what I've done since then is sort of manifest groups that people can join, and you know, the camaraderie and the, you know, to give a space where people can say they're really struggling is so massive, you know.
I mean, for my alcohol-free journey started like 3 years ago. And as I shared, there's a couple of times a year where I'll have a few beers and stuff. But my group I'm part of an alcohol-free group, and it's the most precious group. They're incredible. And there's about 150 of us in there. And they keep me connected. We're friends. We meet up. We do walks. It's that connection is so, so important. And obviously in there, people share, I'm struggling. It's everything. And I think we always bang on in the work that we do about community and making sure that you're not isolated. And
huge.
we become.
And when you look at my drinking, right, I became isolated. I isolated myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be judged, because I was judged that day in that pub, right? And it kind of shone a spotlight on my drinking, right? So the last thing I needed when I was stopping drinking was to feel isolated. So I went to an event in East London and met a few people, and I came away from there thinking, God, they're normal. Because at the time, I was so naive that I thought people that don't drink were boring, you know, dusty old librarians and whatnot. And, you know, I've met some of the most incredible people in the whole world through my sober journey, you know, some amazing people. And it's becoming a really, really amazing lifestyle for people now, that trying to change the narrative around it, you know, that sober isn't boring, and the lifestyle change doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of people around you as well.
It does.
Do you feel it's being supported more now, that alcohol-free lifestyle? So I'm just thinking, for example, like there's way more alcohol-free beers, spirits, and like the recent rugby we just had, Six Nations, you know, it's the Guinness Six Nations.
Zero,
maybe 4-0-0. I think 5 years ago, you never would have seen that, but it's all like no alcohol drinks.
I do. And I think more and more of us are talking about it, and in a way that it's more acceptable. We're not hiding behind a curtain going, oh, by the way, I'm sober.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a bloody number plate that says sober. And I have, and I roll around and people sober. And I'm like, yeah. You know, and I don't care. I'm as proud as punch with it, you know, and I do all I can to promote it wherever I talk, you know, because it's brilliant. And, you know it's difficult. It's not the easiest thing to do, but with the right tools, the right coach, the right support, the right groups, the right mindset is really important to actually want to do it, to believe in yourself. Because most people that get in trouble with alcohol, they got really low self-worth, low self-esteem. And, you know, that can change with the right guidance, you know. We do need help to do that, because it's too hard. And you put all these ingredients in the pot, and then all of a sudden you can see the light, you know, and you think, okay, all right, maybe I can do another week, or I can do a month. Set yourself some real good goals, some achievable goals. It's not always like me, that's it, I'm done, and I've come out the closet and I'm like, yeah, I'm sober. It's okay, what works for me?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, exactly. What would you say? I'd love to know, so you can share with our listeners, what are the, say, like top 3 positives that have come out of you becoming sober? I mean, there's loads, or there'll be loads, but if you could share to inspire people some of the positive things that have really turned around in your life since being sober.
I think the first thing is my health. I can't even imagine going back to those days of waking up every day feeling like I did. You know, like I felt so dreadful every single day until I had a drink. And I was never one of these people that would drink before work. You know, I had a responsible job, but I say that, but I would get in the van probably over the limit, you know, every day. but my health changed my mindset. It changed my mental health, because one of the biggest things you lose straight away is anxiety when you stop drinking. You know,
Yes.
it changed my relationship with my friends around me that supported me, because there was some that just said, "Wow, what's the point, mate? If you ain't drinking, don't want to know you," kind of thing. But there was some that stuck by me, and who I met as well. You know, like I've got incredible people in my world because they are genuinely authentic and they're proud of me. You know, and I think one of the biggest things is my quality of life looking forward as well, because right, ready? I'm 60 this year. I'm 60 this year.
Look at
You look amazing. You look
I
amazing.
sound
You
like
do. You
thank
do look
but
amazing,
I
though.
sound like
Genuinely.
one of these people now. I'm 60, you know. But you know what? Like, you get to an age, right? And it could be 45, it could be 50. And I always say, how do you visualize your life in 5 years or 10 years' time? What do you want to be doing? What do you want to be achieving? You know? And for me, at 54, my life was just bleak, dark, miserable. And I actually even visualized my death of like all my beer mates ran a grave with my engraving on the headstone. He loved a drink, that Dave. And I just thought, why am I even thinking about that? I've got a beautiful son, George, who's 30 now, right? I mean, we never really talked about it. And he didn't live with me for years, but when he stayed with me, I never used to drink. It was agony, but I didn't. I was really responsible like that. And I was his manager for his football team for years and stuff. But when we used to go out, when he was a man, we used to get absolutely obliterated. Now, when we go out, we do really nice things. We go for long walks and we'll have lunch somewhere and we'll chat and engage and talk about what he's up to in that, you know. But one of the biggest things for me is that I know that my quality of life is absolutely amazing. Not brilliant in every level because nothing's perfect, but I've got an amazing girlfriend, a beautiful son. I love the job I do. You know, everything there. My health is really good. And I love life. I genuinely love life. And I'm not like one of these arsehole, that's wrong to say, these lovely influencers like make it out on Instagram that everything's amazing.
I know. No, agreed.
But it isn't. But hey, what's perfect? But I do know that when I said at the beginning of this podcast that I've saved myself, I have, because I was heading for the grave, right? And now I feel excited. As I say, I'm training to do this course, which will change my career in other areas as well. And it doesn't end there. You know, I've got my podcast, I've written a book, I might write another one, you know, and anything's possible at any age if you decide you want to make changes. And the hardest thing I think is actually taking that first step of, right, I need to make a change. But if we can encourage people by planting that seed by this one interview and make people think, go, do you know what? That really resonated with me. I need to make a change. The amount of times I've had messages a year later and go, I heard you say one thing and that changed everything for me. And I'll tell you what that is like. Piers sending me that text that day saying, how would you like to join me? Not, you need to stop drinking, mate. You look a mess. He said, how would you like to join me? And that made all the difference to me because it was a collaboration, not a blame and judgy finger pointing thing at me. And that's what that one line, what changed my life forever.
Yeah. Oh, it's just amazing. Like you kind of, I was about to ask you, like, to kind of sum up what you would say to someone that is really struggling, that's listening to this podcast, and it is resonating with them, and they do feel like they're in a black, dark hole in their life, like physically, mentally, emotionally, the anxiety. You obviously said it's never too late. Have you got anything else that you might want to share with those people that are experiencing that, listening to this podcast?
Yeah, I think it's really important to tell yourself it's not your fault. Because we blame ourselves. Like, how have I got to this? How am I drinking 2 bottles of wine a night? what has happened to me? Do you know what I mean? It isn't that. It's what's happened to you before that in the past. You know, I've just read a book by Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, and it's got what happened to you. It's not like why are you like this? It's like what happened to you, and that could be something to do with childhood. It could be even COVID. It could be marriage problems, whatnot. But drinking alcohol is so epidemic. It's an epidemic now, right? Because it's wherever you look, it's on films, banners, supermarkets, birthday cards,
Everything.
right? And you say to someone that you're stopping drinking caffeine, and you're like, "Oh God, you're brilliant. Wish I could." Or I've stopped smoking, or I'm going on a sugar-free diet, or anything like that.
Everyone's
You
like,
get the
"Wait,
cheers, right?
yeah,
You say I'm stopping drinking, you get labelled boring, miserable. Well, I ain't going out with you anymore, and whatnot. You get shamed for it, right? But drinking alcohol is like, for me, it was medication to solve a problem, right? And it's hell of, as you know, it's really, really addictive. And so no wonder we're all bloody addicted to it, right? We've got a little label on the bottle saying, "Oh, drink responsibly." So they're putting all the onus on us. Like, here's a litre of extremely addictive alcohol here, units of alcohol in there. And it's up to you whether you get hooked on it or not. And so I say, remove the shame, sit down and have a think about your life, right? And see where you are with it. And if it's regularly on your mind about drinking, then it's a problem. And you don't have to be drinking 1 or 2 bottles of wine a night. It could be 2 glasses, but if it affects your sleep, your anxiety, how you parent, it's not all about the amount, right?
yes, exactly."
Then think, can I go a week without a drink, and set yourself a goal? It doesn't have to be forever. And then find a sober community that works for you. There's lots of different people out there. There are lots of groups. Join them, educate yourself, read, listen to podcasts, and start to know a little bit more about it. But feel excited as well, because it is exciting. It's not as miserable as you think. You know, like we go, "Oh, how am I going to get through the weekend without a drink?" Make a plan. Like, you know, structure is everything. You can't just sit there looking out the window going, "Oh, this is absolutely terrible. I'm dying for a drink." You know, like, make a plan to keep busy, do different things. And by the time you wake up, look at a Monday morning and go, "Oh, I feel actually really good going to work."
Yes, that's addictive. That's addictive to
Yeah.
me. Like the hangover-free
Waking
life.
up feeling fresh.
It is, and I just completely bang on to James all the time about how like amazing I feel when it's just
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
addictive to me. I don't want to have hangovers ever.
Yeah. And take a photograph of yourself, right? And go, right, I'm going
Yes.
to take another one in a month. You saw from my post today the difference
Yes.
in those years, right?
Yeah.
But get as many tools in your sober toolbox as you can that are bespoke to you. You and me could go to B&Q now, and you would put different things in your basket to me. They've got to work for you, right? And make a plan, but also be prepared to sit with the fact that it's going to be tricky. You're going to have triggers, cravings, but you can get through them by eating earlier. You know, that fills you up. So then you don't want to drink, go to bed earlier, have a hot bath for half an hour and just listen to something nice and calming. Loads of little things you can do. And then, like, I always say, it's like a house of cards when you're a kid, right? You build the house, and then your dad comes on, boots them over after the first. You're like, "Oh, well, I'll start again." But the higher you get, the more you're protective. And you're saying, Dad, mind, like, step over them. And it's like your days of sobriety. The longer you go, the more protective you are. And then people start saying, "Well, you look great. What are you doing?" You know, and you start to see and feel the differences. And then you've got a new sense of energy going on there, and you just build on it. It doesn't have to be that big dramatic ending of, right, it's over, I'm never drinking again. You know, that whole one day at a time is really important. And wind it forward as well, like that Monday morning. If you're struggling, go, all right, in comparison, how am I going to feel Monday if I drink or if I don't drink? And that can get you through as well.
Every time for me. I think for me, it was, like I said to you before we started recording, for me, it was how I found you 3 years ago was actually, it wasn't for me drinking a lot. It was actually when I did drink a couple of drinks, the level of anxiety I was having the next morning, it almost was like an immediate thing. Like I hit my 40s, and then all of a sudden I couldn't function as well as I did the next day. And I had this horrible like anxiety. So
Yeah.
that's when I started changing my relationship with alcohol. But
Yeah,
you said it's
a lot of
different.
people I talk to are women in their 40s and early 50s and that,
Yeah,
and the menopause symptoms are so similar to the hangover symptoms, and no
racing
one really
heart.
gets educated to if you stop drinking, it can make the symptoms so much better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I say this all the time. If you're experiencing menopausal symptoms and you're going to the doctor like you went to, and they're just putting you on
Yeah,
antidepressants, and they're
yeah,
not asking you how much alcohol you're drinking or your
yeah,
other lifestyle factors. But if you're not being asked about your alcohol, you're just masking it. And then you go on
yeah,
HRT, but you're still drinking alcohol. I'm
yeah.
like, your symptoms,
Oh, I've still got foggy brain and feel
yeah,
terrible, and
yeah, still
you
got
know, and it's like,
anxiety.
oh, really? You
Yeah,
know, and a lot of the doctors and specialists like that, they say, well, reduce. Well, one, that's really difficult, right? Moderation is a whole other podcast, right?
yes, I
Because
know. Exactly.
that's a whole different subject, right? But two is like just cut it out for a while and see how you feel, right? Do an experiment.
Yeah.
Just see if you notice a difference. If you're on HRT and you're going through all those symptoms, cut it out for a month and see if they improve. And then there's your answer.
Bingo. Bingo. Um, Dave, it's been
It's such an inspiring story.
I've really
Really,
Thank
so
you.
really
excited
amazing.
about
Really.
having you on the podcast. Thank
Obviously,
you.
you're supporting and helping a lot of people. If people want to like reach out to you, how can they find out more about you and get in touch?
They can find me on any socials at Sober Dave. I've got a really easy name at Sober Dave. Um, all my details are on there. Soberdave.co.uk. That's my website. It's booked my podcast, all of it. And I genuinely enjoy doing it as well. I had a career change when I was 56. That's another thing. Yeah, I was in the carpet trade for 40 years, and that ain't easy, trust me. I mean, some of the carpets now weigh an absolute ton. And I'm 60 this year. But I went into coaching. I trained to be a grey area drinking coach. Now I'm trained to be a trauma-informed coach. And I would have never seen that. This is what I say about your life moving forward. Like, so many miracles can happen by taking one thing out of your life, and that's it. Remove one thing and it opens the whole door to so many others. And it's like, midlife moving forward, how do we want the quality of our life to be, right? Healthy, vibrant, positive, or waking up not being the best version of yourselves and utterly miserable and depressed? I mean, it's quite easy, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do think the best years of my life are over. This is what we hear as coaches and mentors for midlifers. Best years of my life are over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And so you're talking about tools and giving people strategies. It's just about opening yourself up to possibility and learning the tools. And it's not kind of like we're not asking you to do loads of things all at the same time. It's bit by bit. No one needs this whole complete change of your life. It's just a few things, a few simple things.
Yeah. You want to go to B&Q in the first place, because if you're sitting there now, what's the point? I'm too far down the line now. I ain't even going there. Then you ain't going to move forward, are you? But as soon as you take step one, and that is admitting to yourself that you think is a problem in your life, and you think, do you know what? I can do not something I need to, but it's I can do something about it, and I want to do something about it. And then, that's where I got to, where the day before, I didn't think I could do anything about it. But what I will say, it was months and months and months of me thinking, I need to do something about it. That eventually got me there. It was that subliminal thinking, like knowing I should. And one day it just clicked. So it wasn't a pointless exercise for me thinking like that. And hopefully people listening to this that are feeling the same, like, since lockdown, my drinking's ramped up and I just feel terrible, and it's important to know that there's so much support these days, different from when even I gave up drinking. You know, now there's so much support.
There is. And you're doing such an amazing job, Dave.
Thank
Honestly, you really, really are like so inspiring. And
Thank you.
just massive congratulations on what how you've turned your life around and what you're
It's incredible.
helping other people to do.
Thank you so much for inviting me on as well.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure. So all the details about how you can contact Dave will be in the show notes. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. Take care.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for listening. And just before you go, we wanted to remind you that the waitlist for the Midlife Reset Audit is now open.
You can be the first to take this revolutionary new tool to helping you live your healthiest, happiest midlife by signing up at themidlifementors.com/audit.